Hey guys, Woodworking here, back with episode 5 of the Conversing in Vain podcast. On this episode, we had PwntByUkrainian, founder and CEO of Gankstars. I know this is, I guess, technically late now that this is old news, but I was happy to have him on. We talked to him a lot about Vainglory, which is what this whole episode is going to be about. And then we talked to him about some other things, which I'll put on the next episode. So this will be another 2-parter. Let's get into it.
So when you guys started this podcast, you did realize that 5 people will ever hear it?
5?
Yes.
That's our goal.
Yeah.
Dude, that's more than I thought.
Okay.
We only did it for fun. Yeah.
I know. I mean, obviously, you guys did. I'm making a
Dang,
joke,
that's rude. I take offense to that.
you know.
Because of the quality, right? Because of the implication.
It's the implication.
Because-
That's going to be our intro. Now we can stop talking about him now that he's here.
Okay.
We agree, though. Everyone hates neon, right?
just the color. We're talking about colors. Right?
You're
Neon
white,
green.
right?
There's something on fire.
Neon water.
what's up,
Change
Paul?
this.
Neon white. Why don't you have? Do you have a logo? Anything?
A logo? What do you mean?
No,
It's
like a red
glass.
neon logo.
No.
You should have like an M that's like on fire.
Yeah, but also
Interesting.
neon.
Exactly. Serious.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You got to build a brand for yourself.
Just one thin tube.
You know what would be awesome is if you could find a picture of like a neon sign that was on fire. Like on a burning building. That would be sweet.
Too soon.
But don't try to make that sign.
Yeah,
if you
yeah.
know what I mean.
Don't facilitate that.
Unless it's your building and nobody's inside.
He's sweating right now. They're on to me.
If I see news about a building burning with a neon sign on the front,
Local Vainglory player.
Okay.
it's so upset with 5v5.
Professional photographer captures stunning image of neon sign on fire. Wait a second. All right, well, we already started a long time ago. I never have official starts to this.
No, you don't.
So.
No, you should, and you shouldn't. I wouldn't want you to.
Okay.
Ready, go. Be entertaining.
But you are gonna cut out the shit at
No.
the
He
beginning.
edits. He does edit, yes.
Believe it or
He does
not,
edit well.
I spend
He does
3
it.
hours approximately editing each episode. And this
Sounds
is what
good.
I end up with. I know. It's,
Mostly it's to cut out odds.
Ding.
Just kidding, odds. I love you.
no, it's to cut out background
So,
noise like that.
Hi guys, thanks for inviting me. Who are you? Sorry, I interrupted you.
No, you're good. That's all this whole podcast is, just everybody
Mostly.
stepping on each other. So welcome Pont. Is it Pont or Pont? I always say that word Pont.
Oh, don't care.
Yeah, I've
As
never
long as it
known.
sounds intimidating, I'm good.
All right. Well, I'm intimidated by your presence, so thank you for being here.
Okay.
Yeah. So I appreciate you being here. I know it's not. I mean, the news is old at this point, but we can still talk about it, and I think it'll be interesting to hear kind of your perspective on that stuff. But that's not all I want to talk to you about. In fact, that's not even most of what I want to talk to you about. So, yeah.
Cool. Yeah, I'd love to hear your perspective. You can talk about it.
All right. Well, so I feel like specifically Flash X's video was like the turning point of somebody like really taking a stand opposite. And we talked about his video the week he put it out. And I mean, he wasn't just talking shit. Like he said a lot of things that made sense, but it seemed our takeaway was that he kind of set up a straw man that and then he kept attacking that, and people weren't saying the things he said they were saying was kind of what we came up with. I don't know if you guys agree with that. Well, one of the problems I had specifically, and you know, I'm no huge Gankstars lover. I do like Gankstars. I'm a fan of you and the organization and brand you've created, but I'm not an apologist for you guys either. And it seemed like he lumped you in with every other org that was doing nothing. and when I say you, I mean Gankstars. And
Right,
you guys did put out a ton of content. In fact, if not the most, definitely the second most. But he just lumped you in with like, I don't know, Misfits or Tempo Storm that did basically nothing.
I mean, the reason why he like lumped them in is because, you know, Gankstars was one of the people that left the franchise, so he's just like throwing everybody in a box and slapping a label on it. Like, all these people didn't contribute, so they deserve what they got. Like,
Yeah.
like and like saying that they were kicked out of the franchise. Like, no one was kicked out. Vainglory didn't reach out to people and be like, hey, you know what, like, you're out of this franchise program, we don't want you here, like, you're done, like, you didn't provide enough content. No, they were denied the franchise, so then the orgs left Vainglory.
I think it's actually the opposite. Not gonna lie. What you're
I
saying.
mean, aren't you saying the same thing though?
Yeah.
No,
Yeah.
like,
They're definitely kicking people out.
Like,
I think he just
it
doesn't
doesn't
like the
matter
phrase
what the
kicked
process is. At the end of the day, is orgs ended up without a franchise for
Yeah.
this year.
yeah.
And,
I mean,
well,
orgs. What my point is, like, orgs not having the franchise isn't the same thing as being kicked out of like participating in Vainglory events or competing, like, or just leaving Vainglory.
No, definitely,
period.
yeah, definitely not the same. Like,
And that's-
I don't think SMC would ever want to get any orgs out of Vainglory,
Exactly.
because obviously it helps them to have. I mean, the more the merrier.
Exactly.
But yes, I mean, it was our choice to leave Vainglory for sure, 100%. And SMC, I think, as with any org, they wanted us to be there. And then, you know, maybe next year, I don't know what their plans would be or would not be for 2019, but let's say they wanted to revisit franchise program later, at some point, you know, like they never, I don't see them ever trying to kick out any org out of the game itself, because that would that would create a huge scandal.
Exactly. But and then that's essentially what he's saying. Like, oh, you know, they're kicking orgs out.
I think he said he said they kicked orgs out of franchise is what he said.
Right. Yeah.
Okay. I would need to rewatch the video then, because that's not what I.
Yeah.
Okay.
But I think the way he said it, I agree with you there. The sentiment of there were orgs that have produced good amount of content. You know, I think SK did pretty well. CSM did well. We did well, and there were orgs that just didn't do almost anything. And that is true. I even think like G2 did pretty well, like, because like they have a really wrong perception of money sometimes. And what I disagree with Flash really strongly on is like that orgs were paid a crap ton of money, which is complete and utter bullshit. Like, it's based on literally zero fact whatsoever. Like, I don't know where he pulled that from, who told him that, but it's completely misguided. And I wish he asked a single owner about it before like saying it, because that's actually like, it's not even me. Like, if you ask any owner, that would immediately like yelled at him, because one of the biggest thing that I had about Vainglory is there was never a lot of money to be made in the game, and everyone who's in it stayed in it because of love and passion, right?
Exactly.
So it's
and then that's what the community
I would not have
was.
left Vainglory if we were being paid a crap ton of money to stay in it. Like, why would I leave? Like, that makes no sense.
Can you get, like, I don't know if this stuff's covered under an NDA, but can you give like an overview of what the franchise program was and what was expected on both sides? Because I feel like even us,
I can only say what they already said publicly, really, because it is covered.
Okay.
I mean, content as was specified, I believe, was, I mean, any franchise program out there, for almost anyone, you obviously look at, you want those teams, like say Overwatch League, right? You expect these teams to create a ton of content. The way these programs are set up is just different from one publisher to another. Sometimes, like Overwatch League, basically you pay the league owners themselves, the teams, they pay for everything. They pay to get a spot, they pay for their own teams. Blizzard's job there is just to help them promote and all of those things. But Blizzard doesn't pay them anything. Some franchise programs are the opposite, where the franchise publisher pays everything or a big part of expenses. There's always a limit. Basically, I don't think I've ever seen a franchise program that just like unlimited spending. So usually the publisher approaches say, this is how much we are willing to spend on this. We look at it as a marketing program. and then the orgs choose to join or say, you know what, this is too little for us, we don't care, or this is going to take too much time, too much bandwidth, so it's decent money, but like we just don't have that resources. It's it's different from one to another, but those are kind of the guidelines. All I can say is that we were only in Vainglory because we loved the game. Obviously, at the beginning we were in Vainglory because that was our only game, but like as I said in my post, I think late 2017, early 2017 even, it became, it was definitely a loss leader for us. It was a loss leader for us for the entire 2016, but it was still like, I felt like we really owed it to stay in the game. But then at some point in 2017, we've been asking ourselves that question many times: do we stay, do we not?
Yeah.
And I think every org asked that question, obviously. But like just the whole, I don't know how to. I mean, Flash is a smart guy. I mean, he's a dumb guy. By posting the video, he's a dumb guy. But he is a very smart guy, and I was very surprised that he jumped to so many conclusions with so little facts. And I was also personally, I was quite disappointed he made it like orgs versus publisher. It almost never happens. Like, it is completely not in any org's interest to fight a publisher, right? Because you're burning bridges.
Yeah.
It just makes zero sense. So that's one thing. And two, yeah, it just doesn't. I've never met an org that is interested in that fight. Because even if the game is not like profitable, you obviously want. I mean, in an ideal world, you want all the games to succeed enough to where you can then be present in that space and have a team, right? Like Team Liquid has 15, 16 teams now. I don't think Team Liquid is interested in killing off 5 of those games so they can be in last games. Like, it doesn't make any sense. So to put it such a way and say like, hey, orgs were there like draining money out of the game and blah. Even if it ever did happen, even if, it would be complete accidental, because no org is ever interested in draining publisher out of money. But all I can say is that it did not happen. Like, orgs in Vainglory did not. It was not like.
Yeah, and it's
as I posted, we had barely enough money to pay for our competitive.
And so it's pretty safe to say that that's all the orgs then really weren't making money off Vainglory.
I don't know, but I don't. If they were, then I would love to learn how. Like, I mean, have you heard of anyone getting a sponsorship based on Vainglory?
No.
We were the only org that did, and I mean, you could arguably say Phoenix, although they got it mostly because of production, but at least they did while they were in Vainglory, right? So, literally nobody else did. And viewership, I mean, and these are not things that I'm saying that are these are completely super public facts. Viewership was pretty low last year. The World did well, and that's great, and hopefully that will continue to grow. But I mean,
when you could hear it,
I mean, like PUBG, the first week they got 5.5 million active users. The first week, and I don't have any data from SMC at all about their number of users. But what we do is like we look at Samsung Galaxy Store, which is if you have a Samsung Galaxy phone, you have access to this data. And you look at, it shows you active users for every app, but it's only for Samsung phones, right? So then you have to figure out how many are, non-Samsung phones that this game would be on. So like you have to account for iOS, you have to account for other Android phones, etc. So we have a factor, because some publishers do release their data. And if you look at their data in the Samsung Galaxy Store, compared to what they publicly release, you have a few data points, and then you figure out, okay, the ratio is about 4 to 5, right? So you multiply whatever you see in the Samsung Galaxy Store by 4 to 5, and that's your actual real number. And so the Vainglory's numbers in that store is like 34K a week active users worldwide. And so you multiply by 4 or 5, you get to, I don't know, 120, 150. Now, I don't know exactly how. I think for Samsung Galaxy, the active user is like somebody who uses the app for more than 30 minutes. So you could have a lot of users that use it for less than 30 minutes. So there's another like imprecise factor that you have to factor in. I don't know how each publisher reports their active users, by which criteria. But regardless, so that's the number. And then so let's say if that's the number for Vainglory, you look at PUBG Mobile, and again, that's literally 10x. If you look at Clash Royale, then it's 25x minimum. So it's, it's just very, just different games. So if you, for orgs to make money, like, I would imagine, again, that's why I'm saying orgs were always in Vainglory because of love and passion and never because of money so far. Might change in the future, hopefully, but definitely so far.
Do you think in that sense then player compensation was inflated?
It was super inflated. It's ridiculous.
Okay.
Like the player compensation is, so what happened is, many things happened, but obviously TSM came in, which inflated. Honestly, Gankstars. So originally, I will take responsibility and say that Gankstars originally inflated some of the salaries, right?
Way
The
to
salaries
go,
were at
man.
zero.
Way to go.
That article is shocking.
So, because salaries were basically at zero, we won the IPL, we got an Oscar sponsorship, we were able to pay a little more than zero, right? Which is what you want your grassroots orgs to do. Like, that's growing. But obviously, there were some others like Ardent and et cetera who maybe couldn't compete at the time. Now, we never raised it to like ridiculous amounts. We raised it like a couple $100 a month, right? Like that was our salary, which I think for a small game is reasonable.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
Then Phoenix freaking came in and started paying $2,000 to $3,000 a month.
Yeah.
And we were like, holy shit, like we need to do something. So we tried to keep up extremely hard, like took a lot of money out of budgets. And, and then TSM came in and TSM was like, oh, $2,000 to $3,000 a month. Sure. Why not? Let's do 3.5. Or I don't know how much they're paid, but they were certainly competitive. So then Cloud9 comes in and they're like, yeah, guys, hold my beer. So
Yeah.
it just became insane. And it was completely unsustainable, super inflated. We requested salary caps many times. I can't comment on discussions about that or decisions, but I can comment and say that we requested it. I'm sure other owners have thought about it, because that's a natural thing you do when you have inflation. Like you try to cap it and you kind of sustain. I mean, that's what sports do. Like NBA, you can't just pay anything you want. Yeah, and I think it got to the point where for us, it makes zero sense to stay in Vainglory because we can't afford to compete with TSM or Cloud9. Currently, there's not enough viewership or sponsorship to make money or prize pools. And if you can't compete at the top 8, then why the hell be there? I mean, for what? For positive feelings and, memories? Like, that's cute. But
I told you I was a free agent.
yeah, no. I mean, I'd love to, but like it just, also for us especially, we were an organization that was winning a lot. Like we were top 3 essentially every single season, except for the last one. So for us to go from top 3 to not even top 8, that's a reputation hit.
Mm-hmm.
Like it's different than coming from top 20 and working your way back up. So in perception-wise, we were doing worse and worse, and perception-wise, we were dropping, and that's worse than doing nothing, in my opinion. And again, we just couldn't afford to compete because I'm not going to pay $3,000 to $5,000 per month per player in a game is still growing, it's still young, like it needs time to develop.
Yeah. Well,
If I put the same amount of money in Clash Royale in the last 2 years, I think we would have been almost guaranteed a CRL spot because we would have been huge in that game. Because that's a lot of so for me, it's like such a big opportunity cost. And that CR is one thing, now it's PUBG Mobile and tomorrow it's Fortnite Mobile. There's always opportunity cost if you don't invest in the right place. Like it's suicidal to continue to support inflated salaries for an org like us who has to grow.
Yeah, I felt like the big thing players should be taking away from all this is that they've been getting paid too much, and I know what people are going to do. And most of these guys are kids, so they don't even have like a reference for this in life, right? This is something that always happens. A lot of times
we all want players to get paid a lot. Obviously, players should get paid, but it's fake. It's like, do I want people who work at a fast food place to get paid a lot more than they are? Of course I do. But not if their burger is being sold for $2 a piece.
Right. Exactly.
Like, simple economics. Like, you have to change something.
Yeah. That was kind of my point, is that especially because most of these people are either kids or they're barely into adulthood, they don't really have a good reference for, I'm not going to be able to just stay doing what I'm doing and keep getting paid more. So either I need to change what I'm doing, or I need to accept that I'm not going to get paid more. And in this case, they already were getting paid too much, obviously. I mean, we knew that even before your detailed explanation, which I appreciate. But so I posted something on Twitter, and there were pro players responding to me like, you think it's fair that people put in all those hours and don't get paid a lot? It's not about whether it's fair or not. That's just the way it is.
No, it's not at all.
It's if you think it's not fair, don't play the game professionally. Like, that's all it comes down to. Either go play something else or just play for fun.
No, I mean, what about all the Twitch streamers who put in 50 hours a week or 40 hours a week, whatever it is, and they get paid nothing because they're not big yet? That's called investment. And sometimes you do something for a long time and it never pays off.
Right.
It's called risk. Welcome to life. Sometimes you like, I have friends who started more than 10 businesses and failed every single time and finally took off on number 11 or 12 or number 20 in one case. So was he going to go around and complain his whole life like how life's unfair and he lost all his money 20 times in a row? But it's like because they were making that thousands of dollars, even if it was $1,000 a month, that's probably still too much. And now they're entitled to it. Now they know because somebody made that much, then that's how much they deserve. For sure.
Which isn't the way it is. Sorry, Neon.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's great for a pro player. It was good times because they had a chance to make good money. But a lot of them were young, so it was great. I mean, making $3,000 a month when you're 17, 18, or 15 even is pretty freaking good.
Right.
In any industry. So that's good for them, and I'm happy for them, And if there are orgs out there that want to keep supporting it, fantastic. More power to them. And sometimes that's okay. So the opposite side is, like, if we were a huge org, like let's say Gankstars was Team Liquid size, would we go into new games and spend more there to support the scene or compete in the scene just so we build up the community, build up the image, just in case the game explodes, we're already there and we just then can gain from it? Freaking absolutely. Like, that's standard market penetration that every company is doing everywhere. Why do you think Coca-Cola advertises in the poorest countries in the world? Like, because eventually those countries get middle class. Eventually they grow up, hopefully, and then Coca-Cola benefits. Like, it's a very long-term strategy.
They have the disposable income to buy Coca-Cola.
Because Coca-Cola has, gajillion billions, and they have to spend 10 billion across the world to advertise in those countries. They're like, they don't even notice it's gone. But we were just, most organizations are not in that position. Perhaps TSM is, and it's great because, I mean, again, I think it's great in some sense because it allows some players to have good thing and so forth. And having a good big org presence in a game is good also. But obviously, it's like pumping, or you're pumping money into something that's fake. It will eventually catch up to you, and it will have negative consequences as well. It's like steroids, right? Like,
yeah, the Vainglory market crashed is pretty much what happened.
I think it did. It took too long to start up this time, and I think that's fine. Like, again, there's another thing. So this is another thing I disagree with also, which I think Flash is right about, is that like VG is dying. I don't know. It could be dying, or it could not be. Like, we don't know that. It's not related. Because we were watching it being completely fake in esports, as far as esports goes. And now we realize, okay, the seed didn't grow fast enough. So it didn't work this way. So now they're going to reseed it and try to do it the right way. You can't really jump to too many conclusions here other than what is obvious, which is inflated salaries, and it wasn't really organic.
Yeah, I think the real question should have been, like, is Vainglory competitive dying? Because I don't think Vainglory, the game itself, is dying. Like, once they launched 5v5, like, the player growth was huge. Like, the download spikes, you could see it. Like, sure. But competitively, I think, in my opinion, I don't think it's doing well. Like, the viewers have gone down since then, even with 5v5. Sure. Like, I think that's the real question. Is Vainglory competitive? Not is Vainglory itself dying, because I don't think Vainglory itself is going to die.
I think they're related. I think competitive could be temporarily dying or like taking a hiatus hiatus, whatever the word is.
Yeah, yeah.
Okay. First of all, competitive is dead right now because for God's sake, there is no season for 6 months now. Okay.
Yes, yeah.
Technically speaking, it is dead, but it is temporarily reduced. So, and then maybe you need that, like, you know, you have the roller coaster of life. Like you can't just keep pushing. I think it's not, but I mean, they're connected because as long as the game is alive and has strong casual user base and strong organic growth in the casual side, I can't imagine the game to not, if that is the case, then it is also always true that the game has a chance and opportunity to have a strong competitive base as well.
Yeah, of course.
And you can keep retrying it many times. Like it's infinite tickets. Once your casual dies though, then you're done.
Yeah, exactly. And I think that that's in my opinion, I think that's where they lost. That's where they messed up. Like they pushed way too hard on competitive and not the casual, like just not the game itself.
Yeah.
Like a lot of the focus,
Right.
You know, it felt like it was competitive based, and they lost focus of, you know, because that's what, like when I first started working for Vainglory and when I first started like interacting with the community and meeting people, like the community was great. Like sure, there's toxic people. That's going to be any community. Like, but that aside, like the community was really nice. Like everybody was super chill. Like
yeah,
it was a great community to be in. It was a great game to play. It was like I met a lot of people through Vainglory, and it was great. But then like you could feel it, like after a while it felt like the focus was lost to the casual players, to the community, and it was just focused more on competitive and false growth, I guess is what I would say. But it's sad. Like I like the game a lot. Like I love the game. It's fun. But there's
I think right there is like, I think you're hitting on another kind of nail where people are sad for other reasons, and this whole thing gave them like a scapegoat.
Yeah.
They're like, okay, maybe Vainglory is not as far as I wanted to be, or like maybe Vainglory competitive is not as far as I wanted it to be. And then somebody says, oh, orgs took a lot of money, there's to blame. And everybody's like, oh yeah, well, screw those orgs. It's like, yeah, so I think there's a bit of that, which just happens every time somebody's, you know,
yeah, I mean,
guilty by association.
They have to blame someone. There has to be,
blame someone.
Exactly.
Which all comes from ignorance, because they don't know what's going on with the orgs in the esports scene. Like
and they don't know how businesses are supposed to be run. They don't know how like money works. They don't understand that. They have no concept of that. They
right.
You know, their parents probably still do their laundry. Like,
God, I wish my mom did my laundry.
And they never had a chance to know anything because there was zero communication. So it's like, it almost like all feeds into each other. And honestly, I'm not saying this to say everybody's to blame. I'm also saying this to say it's a cool game. There's 100 others.
Right.
And you should, if you like the game, you should support it. And, you know, give it some time. And hopefully it'll work out and it'll blossom and it's going to be a great game. Like, stop making it like the end of the world every time something happens in it.
Yeah, exactly. Like everybody is like, they forget that this is a small company. You know, they don't have like billions of dollars to like throw off for marketing, huge events and all this. You know, they don't have that.
Yeah, but then they also hear like 10 million and they think that's a lot, which it isn't compared to the other gaming companies.
Kind of is. Well, okay, so.
It is
talk about that a little bit, because is that a real number? Because
no, I don't mean 10. I don't know 10 million to, but I'm just saying that as a number compared to billions. If you're a teenager,
it's a number Flash used in his video.
Oh, right, he did. You're right. Yeah, that's not why I picked that number. But
yeah,
there's no way that's a real number, by the way. No way at all. And
Flash then tried to correct himself, saying, okay, maybe it's 10 to 30 million. Maybe it could have been as far as 30 million, which, you know, looking by, because the fundraising efforts of SMC public. So based on how much they raised, I think 30 million is kind of insane. Like, I think that would be a really not a smart decision by any company to spend that much money in 1 year on almost any specific area. And it's like, I don't know how much they raised exactly right now. You should look it up, woodworking, while we're talking, maybe, because you just go to
before this year, I know it was just over 100.
Okay, so let's say just over 100.
Before 2017,
30 million
I should say.
In 1 year in esports seems very lavish to me as a business decision. Like I would
yeah,
never authorize
Obviously,
that.
that's just fundraising. That's not in game.
And it also just depends on the scope of your company, right? Like every company is going to have a different scope and a different like budget. Like it's apples and oranges. And
10 million sounds more plausible within 100 million. As far as purely, again, I have no idea how much they spend or didn't spend.
I mean,
I have some idea.
I've heard companies, have a budget of $1 billion for esports alone. Like it's not.
Sure.
It's not.
But how big are those companies?
Exactly, and that's the thing. Like it depends on how big the company is. So 10 million or 30 million, 100 million, like it all depends on the company. And like,
yeah, but 30% of your entire fundraising is a lot of money, especially since you've already probably spent a big part of it because you've obviously been around for 4 or 5 years. So, I mean,
yeah,
I don't know how much they have left, but let's say they have left 50. Like, would you spend 30? Like, that seems really stupid.
No.
Yeah, but then like that's the question too. Like, how
Christian
do we know?
is a way smarter guy than that. Like, you would never authorize that. So that seems completely made up.
Exactly. That's what because we don't know.
Maybe.
We don't have we don't make those decisions. We don't know those numbers. Like it's all just speculation. And like that was my problem with the video. Like he started off that it was just
throw numbers at the wall and see what sticks.
Well, no, it was he started it off that like this is all his opinion and these aren't facts, but then like the way he presented it, he made it sound like facts, like like the way
he was speaking from authority for sure.
Exactly. Like he was speaking from like actual facts and like that he knew what he was talking about instead of instead of coming at it as a more passive like argument, like this is why I think they're not dying and I believe that this is going to happen. Like it wasn't that kind of talk. It was like this is the reason why this and this and this and this. Like it was
right. Very definitive.
Yeah, like I didn't agree with that the way he carried that video. I mean, and I Flash is a cool dude. Like he's smart. Like I'm glad that they're doing well and everything's going well. But like I think people need to be careful with like what they say and how they present it because it can come off the wrong way. And
yeah, because he was complete fanboy in the video. It's just
yes.
It's 100% true statement. Like. I again, I'm not going to make specific comments. I will just tell you it was extremely misinformed. And he pulled numbers out of his ass. So, like, if you do that, like, you're right. You need to make it very clear that this is entire speculation. And he was so definitive. And it created this atmosphere where, like, we didn't create this atmosphere. We just pulled out of the game. If you notice, like, my post was pretty nice about it. Like, we didn't go and try to bash SMC or anything. We just said, this currently doesn't make sense for us. Like great memories. Here's our memories. See you later. Sure, there may have been some trolls online who made it negative or whatever, but Flash, in my opinion, made it really negative because it went from orbs are pulling out. This is sad. To now, let's raise our pitchforks and get some kills on the board. Like why?
Yeah, like pointing the blame to organizations just doesn't seem fair. Like unless like the inner workings of everything that's going on, like it's just not fair. Like I kind of feels like it's throwing people under the bus.
Yeah, and then something that got no coverage in his video. He can make a video about whatever he wants, but he didn't say anything they were doing wrong. And there's dozens of things that they have done terribly wrong that are being brought up in the same moment. And he just none of those were approached at all. It was all exactly what you said: orgs versus the game company.
Yeah, that's one thing about the community that kind of. Sorry, go ahead.
No, I want them to do well. Like I don't want to wish any company like fails, and especially a company that that started from nothing. Like that doesn't have like a huge backing.
I can sympathize with that.
Yeah, like but it's just I don't know where he came from for that video. Like
I think he just wanted to look good for SMC. Like that's his. Don't bite the hand that feeds you. And right now SMC is the hand that feeds him. Or he really I don't know. Maybe he just felt personally offended that people are leaving or something, and maybe. I've talked to another person, won't name names, but I've talked to another person who had gotten a specific fact from someone else. And that fact, even though it was true and its base was completely convoluted and then eventually changed. And so the premise of it was that who pays for what? And even though the underlying thing was a truth, who pays for what is entirely false. And so now that person is under impression that, I think that's where the impression comes from, that orgs took a lot of money, or that SMC, some people even think that SMC paid player salaries. Like the SMC directly paid for players to be in the game through orgs. I'm like, that never happened. I mean, I actually don't know. I don't know how TSM manages their relationship with SMC, or, but I know enough orgs to know that none of the orgs I know and talk to, none of them like every org pays for their players. Right? The franchise money, whatever it was, just went to the org, and then the org decided how to split it. But there was never a case where SMC just says, at least that I've ever heard of, that SMC says, we're just going to directly take care of your players, and then we're going to pay you on top of that. I've never heard that. And maybe, I think what happened is Flash might have heard that because this other person did. And so I think there's just like one rumor got on top of another rumor, perception got on top of another perception. And now Flash might have felt that, okay, these orgs are just being disrespectful to this company that helped them get where they were. Like, obviously, I'm very grateful for our time in Vainglory, and, who knows what would have happened without it. But, short of the story is, like, we did pretty well. So maybe he felt like that's what, if there are other orgs that are pulling out that are just mistreating the company, and he felt like he needed to defend them. Which I can sympathize with that. But it would be nice if he also just got out in there and got some facts from those orgs or something.
Yeah, like that, and that's and since he didn't do that, that's why he I feel like the video should have been carried in a different way. Like it should have been, conveyed in a different way, like in the way it was, which is unfortunate.
Yeah,
like,
and then also some blame falls on SCMC for not saying shit ever.
Yeah, I mean, and if they know for a fact that like what in whatever he said in that video is wrong or is incorrect, like it should be spoken on, because the Flash X has a huge following. He has a lot of followers, and
that video has like 30,000 views.
People are gonna eat it up. Like
you can say positive things about the game, and you can say positive things about Vainglory and SMC without trashing innocent people. Put it that way. Yeah. And it's okay to say that a lot of orgs did not fulfill their commitment. That's a fact. It's not okay to say that they're responsible for this, and that.
Yeah, no.
Like there are certain problems in the game that's been around since the dawn of the game.
Because then you're just pointing fingers at that point, and and nobody wins when you do that, especially when you know the facts, and then now you're losing face at that point.
It's all a big mess.
It is, and that's the
important part. It's a mess that only we care about. People honestly, completely, if you take yourself a little bit outside of this, even me spending time on this podcast, I only do this because this is where we started. Would I do this for any other game? Hell no. It's a waste of my 1 hour of time.
Because and the game you is like small, us so much, personally.
Yeah. I mean, but Tinker's also here, but yes. So, yeah, I'm saying, why even we are a small elite group of Vainglory players, so to speak, or a small group. I don't know if elite is the right word, that cares about the game. We are the core community that started here, etc. There are probably millions of players out there who will never hear this, don't give a shit.
Yeah, for sure.
And so I think for me, so the biggest takeaway also is it's something I've been, I don't know, I think I am labeled as a firebrand, and the reason why I'm labeled as firebrand is because I don't do that. I don't fall in line ever. First, because I'm Ukrainian, I just don't give a fuck. But second is I'm in gaming today. Tomorrow I could be in electronics, and the day after I could be in an entirely different business that none of you guys will ever hear of me again, right? Or Vainglory or whatever. I just don't care what I do. I just want to make business and have fun. And for me, all of this is such a small world, such a small problem thing. So what's the most important thing to me is being honest, because I feel like that's how you make the most progress. Right? And if you make a game and I'm committed to it and I'm loyal to it and I'm giving my, shit, I almost lost my relationship with the love of my life because of this game. Like, I am literally sacrificing.
We're stronger for it, Alex.
Huh?
What?
What did you say?
We're
Oh, you're
stronger for it.
We are. Yes, mate, we are. So, like, anyway, so if I put my entire heart
Welcome
and
to
soul
the
into
joke.
something,
5 minutes ago.
if I put my entire heart and soul into something, if I don't give you honest feedback, like, why are you even here? It's a waste of time, waste of your time, waste of my time, right? So, my one feedback for SMC, and I'm totally not afraid to say this, like, this whole thing of like being scared of SMC or like, oh my God, what are they gonna think? It's like, I mean, if they're nice people, I think, and if they are nice people, truly, that they just gonna be cool about it. And the end of the story is like, I want to give you freaking good feedback. When your game sucks, I'm gonna tell you it sucks and where it sucks. And then when your game rocks, I'm gonna tell you where it rocks. And if you can't take that, then you need to freaking find a new job because you clearly don't have a thick enough skin.
Yeah, and you shouldn't be in a position where you receive feedback at all if you can't take that.
Yeah.
Exactly. But like, it's your, like, getting feedback, holy shit, like, you're making software. It's literally 101 of software. Like, make early product, go to the market, test it, get feedback, improve, iterate, like, over.
Yeah.
And so I think the one thing about this whole thing with Flash and whatever is that if we keep saying that the company does nothing wrong and the game is perfect, we are not giving them the feedback they need to have in order to improve the game. It's diluting their, like, intake, right? Like, it's giving them wrong information. Nobody's trying to bash on the game or kill the game or like make it whatever. People are just saying, like, listen, maybe the matchmaker is not perfect right now. Can you please look into it?
Did you say maybe?
You're two people. You know?
Did you say maybe?
Like, okay, or maybe they're saying,
Can we come up with any real examples?
Some shit. So, like, it's important for them to know this, and it's important not to sugarcoat this shit and give them feedback. And I think for SMC part, it's important to know that these people are coming from a good place. Because frankly, if I didn't care, I would have left very long time ago. Right? And I went to games that are much bigger, much more successful right now. And, you know, like, it was a very specific business decision at Gankstars to spend money and time and effort believing in the specific product. And nobody forced us to do that. And I'm not saying, like, please be grateful to me for it. All I'm saying is, like, at least recognize the fact that certain sacrifice had been made. And that's how you know where those people are coming from is a good place. And there's many people like us. There are many orgs like us. There are many other people like us that just want to be able to give you fucking straight feedback without fear of reprisal.
Yeah.
And I think that's a healthy relationship. And I will stand by this till the day I die.
Yeah.
If somebody doesn't like that, they can get the fuck out of my life and I can talk to somebody else.
Yep.
That's my personal position. And that's why I'm a polarizing person, I guess. I don't know.
I wish it didn't make you polarizing because that's the way I go through life too. So I really like that about you. I don't know. I feel like we've said enough about this issue.
Yeah.
Maybe we can move on.
All right.
We love SMC.
Yeah.
I do.
We do, actually. I think we actually do.
Yeah.
Because nobody would get this passionate
Worked
about
up.
something they don't love.
It's exactly what
Yeah.
you said. Yeah. We wouldn't take the time to
Yeah.
give feedback if we didn't care.
Exactly. Like, you wouldn't be in a relationship with someone and just tell them they're perfect all the time and pretend like, you know,
I would just
when
end
they're
it and
not.
never look back.
Exactly. Like, what's the point of being in a relationship like that? Like, I love SCMC and I want them
I
to
told
do
you
well.
that in confidence, bro.
Oh, sorry.
We're having
But-
problems, but okay, we're working on it.
Yeah, we'll get
Is
through
this
it.
an abusive
We'll get through
relationship, guys? Should we, like, all go to therapy or something?
I said I didn't want to do it tonight.
This is therapy.
it. Play with me, Tinker.
God damn it.
I said it on D-Rat's thing. It's like, you know, this is a Dane Cook example. You know, I don't know if you, I guess if
Yeah,
you listen
I
to Saturday
completely.
Dane,
I use that all the time. I didn't listen to Show.
Expand. I don't know what you're talking about.
Okay,
Yeah.
so Dane Cook, a comedian.
I know who he is. Yeah.
No, we know who Dan Cook is. Just
Back when CDs were a thing,
He was born in-
made this joke about how some women come to him and say, I can't leave this guy even though he's abusing me, or I don't like the relationship, or it's like, you know, it's not working for me. I can't leave him. And he goes like, why can't you leave him? And they go, well, because he's got my CDs in his car. I can't just leave him. And he's like, that's the ridiculousness of it, right? Like, just freaking leave and buy new CDs. Like, so we're saying on this thread, but it's really hurting us. Anyway.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I mean, I don't feel like that yet.
Right now, what's happening, guys?
I don't feel like that yet. I don't feel like I've put they have my CDs and I want them back.
I definitely have been there, and I stayed like before I left earlier or at the end of last year. I stayed way too long, just holding on because of like nostalgia, I guess, or because of misplaced loyalty.
Yeah.
And where the only thing I was getting out of it was negativity, rather than like I'd never had fun, So it's a good point. And I think a lot of people are there, or at least have been there at certain times.
And if people are there, like Alex said earlier, like if you're not enjoying the game and you're just sticking around because you've put so much time into it, like don't leave. If you're not enjoying the game, leave.
Yep.
Like don't just sit there and bitch and complain and talk all this kinds of crap about the game and the people who make it and the people who play it. Like, what's the point of that? Like, leave. Get on with your life. Do something else. But if you love the game and you want to see it grow and you actually enjoy it, then fucking play it and share your feedback.
True.
Because
I would just add submit feedback before you leave.
Yeah.
Well, what happens? But if nobody listens, then just move on.
But that's the thing. Like some people don't understand what feedback is. Like some people just be like, "Oh, this game fucking sucks because this, and this." Like, well, please explain. Like, you need to. Exactly. You need to offer like potential solutions. On like why.
If I may add to exactly what you're saying, like I want to make it clear for the 10 people that are listening, or 9.
Offensive.
Again.
Thank you,
so
that's
here's.
Hey, we can make fun of our podcast. You can't, sir.
Yeah. Oh, sorry. I thought I paid you a compliment. My bad.
Yikes.
PwntByUkrainian has been kicked from the server.
What were you saying?
First of all, the thing about NDAs, like I cannot tell you anything that comes from SMC, right?
Mm-hmm.
Because that's under NDA.
Of course.
I can say as much as I want about shit that I send to SMC because I generate that information.
Correct.
And that's not covered. But especially some things like this, which is feedback. So feedback, I sent, I sent very, I sometimes would go over a new game that comes out and take out screenshots and elements and draw on them and point things and send it to SMC saying, this is a really cool feature, you should implement it. And those emails sometimes would reach 5-7 pages long. Yeah. And then we had a project at Vainglory Collective, and I've done this since a year and a half, at least 2 years ago, I think. And then there was a project of Vainglory Collective where there was a specific one called Vainglory Dispatch, where Skills started that, Skills for Kills, who runs EZL. Mm-hmm. And then I helped edit overall, and he had a group of 10 people contributing or more. He's really cool at organizing a bunch of people together. Props to him. At the end, I just edited it. I spent hours and hours and hours and hours on it, distilling it down. And at the end, it came out to be 15 something pages is the first dispatch we sent with a bunch of ideas from the community. That was, I'd say 7, 8, no, that's more 10 months ago. I don't know. And then they were working on a second dispatch, and then I don't think that ever got finished because I quit VGC, had to focus on Gankstars, whatever. But the point is, it's not, people need to understand that, I don't know who else has done it, but me and other people in Vainglory Collective, some people in Gankstars, we've sent extremely detailed feedback for years. And that is I think that's a great, if you can do that, do that. What you were saying, don't just bitch on Twitter, sit down, think about it, send it to them.
Exactly.
And if nothing changes, go to another game.
Implement it, yeah. But at least you did everything you could do.
Yeah, not your job to run their company,
Yeah.
Nope.
Our job is to submit feedback.
It's not really our job to come up with solutions either.
It's not our job, you're right. But I mean, I just think to the point of, if you're going to do anything, do it. Otherwise, just leave.
Yeah, because there's a...
Certainly not our job, no. I'm not being paid for this shit.
No, exactly. But just pointless rambling and bitching is not gonna change anything. It's not gonna be insightful for the other person. They're not gonna be open to receive that if you're just talking shit. No one's gonna receive that.
Correct. Yes. If you're gonna do that, do it in a private circle. Nobody's
exactly. like
Just,
Like this podcast.
yeah. Oh, wait, we're on a podcast?
That's what I want it to feel like. I think we've done a decent job of that so far. But I really do like. That's why I don't bring really talking points or bullet points and follow a formulaic like order that we go through things.
Because I don't want that like scripted feel. Like I like just like, you know, shooting from the hip. Like fuck it, like whatever.
Okay, calm down, Walker, Texas Ranger.
No.
So my next talking point is
Yeah.
I'll release the next talking point in the next episode. Thanks for listening, guys.